20%, the happier 20%, I discovered that each of them knew something about their life purpose because they knew 5 things: who they were, what they did, who they did it for, what those people wanted or needed, and what they got out of it, how they changed as a result. Does that sound hard? It's not. It's actually really simple. In fact, it's so simple that you can learn your life purpose now. You're going to know your life purpose now. If you're like a lot of us, you have wondered and worried about your life purpose for a long time. And there are books and magazines and workshops and seminars about it. In fact, Amazon lists 151,928 books that refer to how you can learn your life purpose. Well, I know some people who have spent their entire lives trying to learn their life purpose. And look, we can all agree that the unexamined life is not worth living. But if all you're doing is examining, you're not living. So let's figure out the life purpose right now together. Who you are, what you do, who you do it for, what those people want and need, and how they change as a result. Shall we do it? Yes. All right. Everybody, on the count of 5, shout out your first name. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Brian. Fabulous. That was the first one, only 4 to go. That's who you are. All right, now what do you do? What do you love to do? You love to write, cook, design, create iOS apps, write code, crunch numbers, talk, teach. What do you love to do? And if there's a lot of things that come up for you, focus it down by asking yourself this one question. What is the one thing that right now you feel supremely qualified to teach other people? Think about that in one word. Hold it. Don't release it yet. On the count of 5. What do you do? 1, 2, 3, 4. Great. That's what you do. Now, think about who you do it for. Picture them in your mind. Be ready to say it on the count of 5. Hold it. Don't release it yet. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Who do you do it for? Let's see it one more loud, a little bit louder, please. Over the people in the tent. Who do you do it for? Together? Thank you. That is the spirit that we need. Okay. Now, what do those people want or need? What do they want or need that they've come to you so you can give them this thing? What do they want or need? In just 1 or 2 words, hold it, don't release it yet. And on the count of 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fantastic. Now, this is the best one. How do they change? How do they change or transform as a result of what you give them? On the count of 5, how do they change or transform as a result of what you give them? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Terrific. Now, we're going to put this all together kind of in a sentence, okay? Everyone together, louder than the people in the tent. Who are you? What do you do? Who do you do it for? What do they want or need? How do they change as a result? Fantastic. You have all just done something that people who went to Yale could not figure out for 25 years. Congratulations. Give yourselves a hand. Now, why is that formulation so powerful? Because of all those 5 things that you need to know what your life purpose is, only 2 are about yourself. The others, 3 of them, are about other people. Who they are, what they want or need, and how they change as a result. That formulation forces you to be outward-facing. And all the happier people that I met outside the tent on that warm New Haven night, they were outward-facing. They were not inward-facing. They knew very clearly whom they served, what those people needed, and how those people changed as a result. And you may have intuited this already, that the most successful people in any field always focus most on the people that they serve than on how they are served themselves. Happier people make it a point to make other people happy and do things that make them feel well taken care of and secure. If you make other people happy, life teaches us we will be taken care of too. So since you all did so well, we have time for just a little bit of extra credit. One of the most difficult things that happens when you meet people for the first time is they ask you this question. so what do you do? And if you're like some of us, that's a really challenging question sometimes, particularly if you're in these moments where you're between things, or you're feeling vulnerable, or it isn't defined, or what you seem to do isn't what you really do, or what you're paid to do isn't how you define yourself. So when people ask you this question, so what do you do? And also you got this monologue going on, like, why is he asking me, so what do I do? It's because it's that transactional thing where it's like he wants to know if he should really spend time talking to me, or it's that other thing so he can tell me what he does because he's sure it's, really so much better than what I do, right? So when somebody asks you that question, here's what you do. You just say the very last thing you called out, how what you do changes the people you do it for. So for example, you might say, I give kids awesome dreams. If your life purpose is, I write books for children so they can fall asleep at night, so they can have awesome dreams. Or you might say, I help people look and feel their best. If your life purpose is, I design apparel for men and women who need affordable choices so they can look and feel their best. Or you might say, I help people get great work into the world. If your life purpose is, I train entrepreneurs and creative people to take decisive actions so they can get their greatest work into the world. And then that little snippet that you just said becomes your personal elevator pitch. And it will always start the conversation because the person that you were just talking to has to ask you a question. How do you give kids great dreams? How do you help people look and feel their best? Can people really get their greatest work into the world? And then you get to tell them, and you get to share your life purpose. And you get to share how they may come to learn theirs too.
You know, a lot of people want to think that the only thing I'm putting out there is hustle. I am putting out a ton of content that speaks to happiness and actually mental health through self-awareness. And more importantly, this whole keeping up with the Joneses, or AKA needing to be liked and finding the balance of that. Bro, you nailed it. Let me tell you one thing though. Say give back. Say give. I'm going to tell you something. If you're doing something nice for somebody else, if you're giving, I am telling you right now, as somebody who's in your ear morning and night for the last 2.5 years, please hear this and repeat it, and we'll send the clip to you. If you're doing something nice, don't judge yourself if you're doing that for selfish reasons. It's a hell of a lot better to try to become liked because you're helping another human than because you bought Gucci loafers. Like at some level, we have to stop judging ourselves, and in the actual action of doing the right thing, I like to always say, doing the right thing is the right thing, and everyone, that's what this is, brother. Like, you're a young dude. I can tell you right now that Scott and I are blown away about things we've discovered about ourselves over the last 3 years as men that are pretty self-aware and like to think about this shit and are pretty in tune. I'm baffled by my ability to continue to turn new stones every day. How old are you?
25.
Brother, you're gonna keep learning about yourself all the time, but please, please let this little rant allow you to not judge yourself of why you wanna give. If you wanna posture into society that you're a good person or you're part of a cause, but you actually execute, then you're doing the right thing. To me, where it gets dangerous is the following, and you've heard me say this. If you're a keyboard warrior and you put out an Instagram post of like, big ups to the people fighting the fires in California, but you don't have the ability to write a $25 check or to send some water to somebody or make a phone call. If you don't do something tangible to the keyboard warriorness, if you just tweet #MeToo, but you do nothing about it, or in real life, you're actually a douchebag to the female race, that's, if you're a hypocrite, then you're posturing. But if you're actually doing something, if you go this Thanksgiving and take mashed potatoes and put them in somebody's plate, or if you go with $13 and buy a toy at the dollar store and drop it off in the lobby of your, like all these little things that I act on, that I think about, that are subtle. There is no content around it, but it's in my constant motion of doing, not speaking to doing. If you're actually giving, brother, who gives a fuck if people think you're good because of it? You're actually doing. Stop judging yourself. when Scott changed the course of my life by inspiring me to be actively good in a different way than I thought about it in the past. I was always a good guy. I would always help. The amount of people that owe me money is absurd. I think I could buy the jets with the IOUs. I always did a lot of good things, but I never thought about it as macro. I was very immigrant family, like, you know, you did it for like your cousin or an employee. It was very insular. The biggest fuck of my life, and I say this sometimes, but it's fun to say what Scott here is,
We're gonna give people nothing. They're gonna come into our gala. We're gonna give them an opportunity to be the most generous version of themselves. I actually say that from stage now. I'm so intentional about this language. You are coming in, you're gonna leave with nothing. You're gonna leave, you know, with nothing except the fact that you know you used your resources to end needless suffering. And to the degree that you use those resources. And you're gonna go home and your wife or your husband or your partner, you know, is gonna look at you, hopefully with respect and admiration because you did it for the right reasons. The minute we did that, I remember the first year we did away with the crap, we doubled the race. We literally doubled it. Last year we raised $4.6 million. We fed people a chicken dinner, like a rubber chicken dinner, almost 400 people. There were people that just responded to the stories. You know, we were trying to call forth like the greatest goodness in them and then believe that they would be transformed through that unselfish act of giving and that would create the desire to do more. They would almost get addicted to that unselfishness and say, wow, it actually feels better. Like, think about it. If you're giving because you care and not giving with an ulterior motive, you sleep better at night. You just do. Like, you just do. You gave because you wanted to respond. You looked at a problem and said, I have the resources to solve that. You know, a little bit of that. So I think I would encourage you to, you know, make sure you're giving, you know, follow this pursuit, go learn video, go learn photographs, go learn how to tell stories that it sounds like tell stories that honor people and both maybe elevate their condition.
Right.
And you'll find yourself hopefully just really engaged in the redemptive, pure aspect of that work that you'll just want to do more of it.
And oh, by the way, for everybody who's watching, and be selfish to what makes you happy too. Like, it, you know, I always say to people, like, the reason I feel I can give so much is because my selflessness comes from my selfishness. I'm not gonna feel crippled by anybody. They don't know. First of all, nobody knows. I don't know 99% about Scott. What happens in his bedroom, in his head, on a flight when he's by himself. And we're always about, bro, Scott, how different, I mean, this is just a loaded question. How different of a man are you today than you were when you were 25 years old?
Yeah, I was a scumbag at 25. I was a degenerate, right? 25, I was addicted to cocaine, gambling, alcohol, strip clubs, and pornography, and about 2 to 3 packs of Marlboro Reds a day. So,
So for everybody who's watching right now and worried about being too ideological or holy shit, feeling pressure like I'm a bad person, like why'd I buy a Nintendo Wii last night? I should have given it to the kids. Life is long. Eliminate the judgment about yourself first.
And your past does not dictate your future. That was really the point of writing the book. Was the book starts with me doing drugs and falling through a plate glass window at NYU, like off my face, to then go to the emergency room, you know, get all fixed up and then go work at Twilo, you know, some club like back in the day. And, you know, if you had ever seen the wreck of a human being that I was, this is never someone that's gonna start a charity. This is never someone that's gonna have a healthy marriage and kids. Like, this is never someone that's gonna leave any purpose or lead a life with purpose. My tombstone was actually gonna, had you met me at 25, my tombstone was going to read, here lies, you know, a guy who died prematurely young of a drug overdose and managed to get millions of people wasted before he died as a nightclub promoter. You know, and now at 43, like, my tombstone is
a hell of a lot better. And guess what? Let me go the
different.
reverse. Something I think about every day. And guess what? You could crush it and you're the most noble motherfucker of all time to 47, and then you're not.
You could finish badly. Exactly. I think about finishing well all the time.
As you should, especially if you've ever had not good. You know, if you've had not good and now you're in the good zone.
And we have kids too. We start thinking about the men we want to be for our children.
By the way, so many people, I've had some really deep conversations lately of people that feel in a trap of nobleness because of their parents, but don't feel accountable to their kids. And I had the craziest combo I've ever had. Somebody telling, I couldn't believe this. Somebody telling me that they couldn't wait for their parents to die so they could have some fun. And just the whole, like everybody's living different lives. I think we're
Do
all
you
just.
guys have any practical advice on getting rid of that poison?
Well, look, I think you're doing it right now, brother. I think one of the quickest ways to get out poison is to over communicate and expose yourself. I think that's what Scott did. How many, how many people are pumped about talking about being addicted to pornography, cocaine? Like, I think you're
I just
doing
knew
it.
it would help people, and the honesty,
And it helped you too, bro.
There's a trust too.
Bro, look.
It was a personal, yeah.
Listen, what happened with me? You want to know why I
I was
became
doing
the
therapy
entrepreneur?
in front of 10,000 people on stages.
You know why I became the entrepreneur's entrepreneur? Let me give you the preview. In 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, when it wasn't as cool to go to Mount Ida College and get D's and F's and like all that, when everybody judged me because they all went to Georgetown and Yale and all this, in my circle of all the Silicon Valley winners, I kept doing it because it was my truth. It was liberating. It was the truth. And then the market moved in a way that made it more acceptable. What would I do if I were you? I'd go on Instagram right now and make a video and tell every fucking secret insecurity you've got, just completely let it go. It might feel safe in this environment right here. Put it in every circle of your life. It will lose its leverage.
Right.
Our secrets of our insecurities are the jails of our emotions. The way to free it up is to put it out in the wild. I have very deep friends and family right now that I wish they'd make one 60-second video on Instagram and tell the world the truth of the one thing they've been holding. They wouldn't unbelieve how light they would feel the next day. Any final thoughts?
I'm just grateful.
My parents' biggest frustration was that I was epically lazy, and if they handed out gold medals for being lazy, I would have won, I assure you, hands down. Because even though I was a slightly chubby kid growing up in a morbidly obese family in Tacoma, Washington, I always knew two things about myself. One day I was going to be rich, and I was going to have six-pack abs. Like, those are the two things, as that kid that was, jiggling his belly thinking, one day I'm not going to have to suck in my gut. When I left for college, my own mother, who'd always been my biggest cheerleader, quietly assumed I was going to fail. But these two guys that were successful entrepreneurs and bodybuilders happened to walk into a class when I was a teacher. And they were just starting a technology startup, and they said, hey, we need a copywriter. Why don't you come be a copywriter? And so I was just young enough and just dumb enough, and I went all in. They literally put me in the room with all the computer servers. But starting from there, I knew I could wow people because I was willing to grind it out. And we all have a superpower, and my superpower may be the willingness and ability to endure suffering. I had suffered a lot. I hadn't taken a day off in like 6.5 years because I was so hell-bent to get rich. And then I realized, almost 8.5 years in, I'd finally had enough. I had hit my breaking point from suffering, and I got so mad, and I was so unwilling to do it anymore. And I turned to my partners and I say, I'm completely miserable, I quit. I realized the reason I was living the cliche of money can't buy happiness. Along the way, had become so myopically focused on this promise I'd made to myself as a kid that I never stopped to ask, why do I want to get rich? The questions you ask yourself will determine the course of your life. I had been asking myself, what do I need to do to get rich? And it left me really unhappy. So I changed the question, and I started asking, what would I do and love every day, even if I were failing? Life is too short. This is your one go-round. So what are we going to do? We're going to build a company that's predicated on value. We're going to build a company that's predicated on passion. I started thinking about my mom and my sister, but they were profoundly overweight. I started thinking about my uncle who ate himself to death when I was 12 years old, and how much that scared me, and it made me sad. And it made me sad to see that there were millions, if not more than 1 billion people that were in the same kind of abusive relationship with food that my mom and my sister were. So I said, I don't know if it's a big business, but I know it's a big problem. And that's the problem that we're going to solve. And so we decided to build a totally new kind of company. We started Quest Nutrition in 2010, just as we were coming out of the Great Recession. I was wearing a hairnet and a lab coat every day, and my employees were former gang members, ex-drug dealers, felons. We were in Compton, and we literally told everybody in the neighborhood, I don't care if you've been convicted of a crime. I just want to know if you're willing to bust your ass to change your life. And if you are, you're going to get an interview. And I'm not going to ask for your resume. I don't care about your resume. Your resume tells me where you've been. It doesn't tell me the price you're willing to pay to become somebody new. Every belief that you have is a choice. I choose to believe that human potential is nearly limitless. And this was the belief that changed my life. Because once I realized, so it's not about who you are today. It's about who you want to become and the price you're willing to pay to get there. And I promise you, the day that you're willing to pay any price, you'll achieve what you want to achieve. If you truly believe that human potential is limitless, what do you want to become? And what price are you willing to pay to get there?